Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about constellations. We're talking about things up in the nighttime skies, things that are out in space, and constellations are something that we kind of see all the time. Now, if you also remember, there's a great AR app called Sky Viewfinder, which you can download, and you just point it, and it uses the GPS and all that fun stuff in your phone, and it allows you to look up the nighttime sky and point out different constellations and what they are. So it's a great little app to use with your students or family or friends or whoever. So we did it at our son's Boy Scouts one night, and the Boy Scouts absolutely loved it. Now, I don't know that Serena Williams is actually getting her own constellation. I know there was a proposal, but I don't think it really went anywhere. So let's actually talk about some of the different constellations. There's actually 88 different constellations out there. Now, the zodiac are ones that are also included in the different constellations, and I can talk about them in a little bit. A lot of the constellations, and the reasons I love the constellations, even with astronomy, is the connections you can make to history. So some of the stories behind it. So let me first ask you, what is probably the most popular constellation out there? Well, you probably thought of Big Dipper. Well, the Big Dipper is actually part of another constellation called Ursa Major, which is Big Bear. So if you look here, this is what we think of when we think of as the Big Dipper. But when we look at Ursa Major, we actually see that it's part of a much larger constellation. Now, according to some of the Native American legends, and like I said, this is where the historical aspect really gets into it, and what I find fascinating is that this was a giant bear that was appeared typically late fall, and the three stars of the handle in the Big Dipper are actually hunters chasing the bear, and they injure the bear, and the bear injured is bleeding, and so this is the reasoning why the trees, the leaves, all change to different reds, yellows, and oranges is because this is actually blood from the bear. So if we're thinking about Big Dipper, naturally you're going to have the Little Dipper. And so Polaris is the North Star. So everything in the heavens rotates around Polaris. And the Little Dipper is easy to find. If you take the end of the Big Dipper and you take them upwards towards Polaris, and they will kind of aim you directly towards Polaris. Well, Polaris is, Little Dipper or Ursa Minor, which is the little bear. So some people also believe that ancient, mythologies, Callisto and Arcas, this is where those stories comes about. But Polaris is actually used for navigation. So depending upon where you are, latitude, longitude, Polaris will actually move. So it's you can actually still take courses on celestial navigation, and it's really based upon Polaris. Now, the Little Dipper was actually part of another constellation called Draco. This was actually the wing in Draco's constellation. So if you look at Draco the dragon here, you can see here's Polaris and here's the Little Dipper. And you can see where, what, it actually kind of does look like a wing if this is Draco the dragon. Now, there's different tales about Draco the dragon. Couple of great movies, Dragon Hearts, all those fun stuff, you can watch them. But the Greek legend was that Draco was a terrible dragon. And Cadmus, who was the first king of Thebes, was sent out and he killed the dragon. Now, when the dragon was killed, Athena appeared and told him to sow the ground with the creature's teeth. And what happened was the teeth sprang up into armed soldiers, and he helped them found Thebes, which was a city in Egypt, which I think is Alexandria, or is it Cairo? Ah, so Babylonian time tells a Tiamat, who was a woman who turned herself into a dragon, was defeated and split into two different parts. One part became the heavens and the other part the earth, and so the splitting of the two. Now, a Chinese tale. Now, if you've ever been to Chinese New Year, one of the things about a Chinese New Year is that there's a lot of noise. You have noisemakers, you have poppers, there's rockets. Well, this is actually in foundations of mythology. So during a real eclipse, ancient Chinese would make as much noise because they thought that Draco the dragon was actually eating the sun. So they would make as much noise as possible to scare the dragon away. And with eclipses, it would go away. And so became part of culture to actually do this. Now, probably if I ask you to think of another constellation outside of the zodiac, the one that would probably more than likely come up with for next for most people is Orion. And Orion's the hunter. Now, Greek mythology, Zeus, we're not even going to talk about Zeus and his many affairs, but, well, actually, we are going to be talking about that next. But there's a lot of tragic love stories. Orion was a hunter who was in love with Merope. Now, Merope is one of the seven sisters, again, astronomical constellation as well too, um, and formed the Pleiades. Merope wanted nothing to do with Orion, and Orion's entire existence was for Merope. So his life ended when he stepped on Scorpius, which was a scorpion, and he died due to the injuries. Now the gods felt sorry for him because he lived such a tragic life, so they mobilized him into the nighttime skies here as Orion the Hunter. And what they put next to him, if you actually look at the other constellations there, you have Canis Major and Canis Minor. Well, those were his hunting dogs that were associated with them. And so they would also then put things like, you know, Taurus, the lion, Taurus the bull, Leo the lion. And so the animals that he hunted were around him. And so he has been immortalized with his dogs hunting the creatures that he loved hunting. What's interesting is Scorpius was placed on the other side of the nighttime sky so that he would never step on him again and never be attributed to that same fate. Now, there's going to be one more constellation we talk about before we get into the zodiac. And let's think Disney, immortalizing the star. You're a champ, you know. And that person is none other than Hercules. You know. Well, I love Disney as much as the next person, probably more so. I love it more than my 10-year-old. I don't know about my 7-year-old, but I definitely love it more than my 10-year-old. The Disney version of Hercules is not quite the original story. Herod was, Zeus was king of the gods. Hera was queen of the gods. Zeus had an affinity for mortal women, and he had many affairs, and Hercules was a result of one of the affairs. So in Hera's eyes, she hated him. Hercules was a sign of Zeus's infidelity in his marriage towards her. So Herod basically made him go insane. He burned down Hercules' house, he killed his wife, killed the kids inside of the house. After Hercules finally recovered his sanity, he sought the help from the Oracle of Delphi. Now, the Oracle told him that he has to help, or he has to serve his cousin Eurystheus, king of the Argos, and Eurystheus really didn't like him either, for 12 years. So he had hoped to destroy Hercules by giving him these 12 impossible tasks. And Hercules actually completed all the different tasks that was set out for him. He then also took part with the voyage of Jason and the Argonauts to find the Golden Fleece. So his life is still pretty tragic, and it came to an end when he had remarried, so he had found some love there, but his second wife thought that Hercules was being unfaithful. Hercules thought that the romance, that the love was out of their marriage. So she had put what she thought was a magic potion into his robe and doused his robe with this magic potion, which in actuality turned out to be a poison. So when Hercules put the robe on, it basically burned his skin a lot. And so Hercules was ripping off the flesh from his body everywhere because the pain was so great. And that is, in essence, how Hercules died. So Zeus honored his son by making him to a constellation and placed him in the sky forever. So this isn't the Disney version, but again, none of the Disney movies are. I mean, look at Grimm's fairy tales. Cinderella. She had, the sisters were cutting off pieces of their feet to try to make the slippers fit. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The dwarves didn't, the witch didn't fall off the side of the mountain. The dwarves captured her, put her in iron shackles that had been in fire red hot, and made the witch dance in these red shackles until she had a heart attack, and that's how she died. So, Little Mermaid, yeah, she didn't make it. So sorry about that. I'm sure that's gonna, be in the evaluations at some point in time later on. But moving forward, okay. Zodiac. Well, I'm a Capricorn, December 21st through January 18th. Well, what makes a Capricorn a Capricorn? Well, we say it's because the sun is in Capricorn. So if you look at this description here, the earth and the sun form a straight line, and the sun currently is blocking out Sagittarius. So we say at this point in time, the sun is in Sagittarius. So when the sun was in Capricorn in January or December, those dates, that's your constellation because the sun is in that one. Now, I'm going to show you another slide. And you might notice this isn't the traditional zodiac. The dates are wrong. According to this one, Capricornus is January 19th to February 15th. According to this, I'm Sagittarius. I'm an archer, which I'm going to go with because, quite honestly, being an archer sounds a whole lot better than being a sea goat. I prove me wrong, but it sounds better. But it's not only that the dates are different, it's that there's actually a 13th as opposed to the 12 signs of the zodiac. And that 13th one is Ophiuchus. Well, this is, you have a traditional zodiac and you have a modern one because the stars actually gradually, slowly move in the nighttime sky compared to the sun. So during the ancient times, yeah, the sun was in Capricorn at a certain point in time, but now it's not. So Ophiuchus is the snake holder, commonly represented as a man grasping a snake. There's different buildings out there with him on it. So one thing with the constellations, we get into the zodiac and you have astrology. And we talked about what is scientific, what's not scientific, and this is one of those things that you can look at. If you look at these different clippings, they're all from the same day. This was way back in the past, but still, the date doesn't matter. But it's the fact that, there's 4 different reports. One of your friends might have an interesting social opportunity for you, but you need to do some research on your own before signing on or committing yourself to any way. If your friend is truly a friend, they won't mind it unless if you do your due diligence before associating yourself with their little scheme. And if they get defensive about it, then you know for sure something is up. Your key planet, this is from AOL, when I actually used to look on AOL, so okay, fine, the date in the past is kind of in the past. Your key planet, Saturn, receives an energetic boost from fiery Mars today, encouraging you to start your own battle if needed. But this isn't about aggressive conflict, it's about overcoming obstacles that are in your way to successful outcomes. Set your mind on your destination and then don't let anything distract you from your goals. Obstacles, hello, anyone see what's happening right now? And of course, we're talking astrology, you gotta go to astrology.com. Your work life may take over your mind a bit today thanks to one major problem that seems unsurmountable. Just try to cope with it. The solution won't come for a little while longer. Little while longer yet. And yeah, this happened when I was in Atlanta. So AJC is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution newspaper there. Don't worry too much about what's going on around you today. It's not easy, but it's not signaling more trouble on the horizon either, as long as you deal with it to the best of your ability. It should be a wash. This was kind of, like 2007 sometime. I think it was like in November 2007. But I mean, if you think about it, these could all apply to today. We have problems that we're going through today, but they're all different. They're all saying different things. But what I can do is I can take something about this and apply it to myself today. And I can make it work. And I can make it seem like, wow, this is so right on. Your work life may take over your mind a bit today. A major problem that's insurmountable? Well, here we are. So, and then, I mean, I have a friend who, or, family friend who, she is an astrologer and charges about $400 a reading. So, there are some things, I'll admit we were just never meant to know or explain or explore or understand, but just some things for you to think about with it. So, I'm going to sign off from this one. Enjoy your week, and I'll be talking with you soon.